number 7 South Carolina, the defending champions. From Colonial Life Arena, you're watching the SEC on ESPN. Going to be a ruckus atmosphere tonight as we welcome you courtside. Adam Amin on hand. We don't have to sell you a whole lot. The defending national champion South Carolina against the dynasty that is Connecticut in the national championship game we didn't get last year. A matchup that you want to latch on to tonight. My all-star partners Rebecca Lobo, Kara Lawson, and Holly Rowe break it down for you.
This could be the best individual matchup of the season. Let's start with National Player of the Year candidate A'ja Wilson. What makes great players great is that they have the ability to take disadvantaged positions and turn them into positions of advantage. It's exactly what A'ja Wilson does on a possession basis. South Carolina sees this look a ton in their offensive action. 5 players in the paint. A'ja Wilson is able to take what little real estate she has free on a possession basis and turn it into something positive. How about the defensive end? Pass ahead in transition. Her South Carolina teammate goes to the steal. A'ja Wilson is 2-on-1. She's the one. She can catch the pass, contest the shot, block, and makes a play. That's what you have to love about her doing it on both ends of the floor.
And the task of defending 6'5" A'ja Wilson right here in the paint falls on the shoulders of 5'11" Gabby Williams. Kara, you got a little heel on tonight, so the difference in their height is about the same as Kara's and mine. So how is the best defender in the country going to handle this matchup? Well, she has to use her quickness, her off-the-charts athleticism to get around Wilson, not let the pass in. When I asked her about the matchup, she said, I love it. This is the kind of game I look forward to. I wish I could have this kind of challenge every night.
Well, the challenge that UConn is going to have tonight is playing in front of this loud and wild crowd. Over 12,000 people going nuts here in this building. The UConn players told me they think this will be the toughest place they have played all year, but they're looking forward to that challenge. Just consider what Dawn Staley has built here. When she started, they were averaging just over 1,800 fans a game. Now they're averaging over 12,000 fans a game, leading the nation in attendance. Now, there was some controversy this week with these fans. We will get into that later in the show. There has been a little extra security posted. But for now, enjoy these fans because they are bringing it in this top 10 matchup tonight.
I missed you guys. Glad you're back courtside. We're ready for this one tonight. Dee Kandner leads our officiating crew. Gabby Williams, A'ja Wilson for the tap. The defending national champion, South Carolina, 18-3. Number 7 team in the country, seeking its first ever win against the number 1 team in the nation and its first ever win against UConn in 6 tries. Alexis Jennings with the second chance opportunity. Here is Williams. From the elbow, ties it.
Hugely important for Gabby Williams to be able to make that shot for Connecticut because they were working on that a lot today in terms of the quick pass off the screen and roll.
Well, Holly mentioned it early this week. Missouri Athletic Director Jim Sturk accused Dawn Staley of promoting an unhealthy fan atmosphere and claimed that some South Carolina fans spat on and directed racial slurs at Missouri players after South Carolina's win here on Sunday. Wednesday, Dawn Staley flatly denied that anything took place of that sort. South Carolina Athletic Director Ray Tanner released a statement shortly after Sturk's comments on Tuesday night, saying that the program conducted an investigation interviewing security personnel at Colonial Life Arena. The investigation found no evidence to support Sturk's claims.
Well, and Commissioner Greg Sankey previously announced today that he has spoken to both athletic directors that they have got to continue to foster a sportsmanlike atmosphere between these two SEC programs. And when we asked Dawn Staley about it today, she said, I want our fans to be themselves. We got here by being ourselves, and I encourage them to do the same. She believes in her fans.
Holly, there are two pieces to this. The first, if what Mizzou alleged to have happened, that's disgusting, and there's no place for it, if it happened. The second part of the comments made by Missouri Athletic Director Jim Sturk, and his transitive property reasoning is reckless conjecture. My father taught me this when I was younger. He said, when people show you themselves, believe them. And after they show themselves to you, Adam, it's your individual responsibility to assign value to their thoughts and assertions. I know Dawn Staley to be a woman of high character and someone that I have a great deal of professional respect for. So I assign a great deal of value to her assertions and thoughts.
Well said.
7-4 early lead for Connecticut. Here come the Gamecocks off the turnover, and Ty Harris was looking up before the ball reached her. UConn ball.
Early on, both of these teams defensively getting after it. You'll see South Carolina, what they do, what's their identity, is to get up in you defensively. Try to just make things difficult on the catch. Nice drive by Katie Lou.
Offensive rebound, Williams. Nurse, the country's best three-point shooter at 51%, already has a pair of threes.
Well, it's perpetual motion and perpetual movement, and you have to be ready to defend multiple actions and be an intellectual defense if you're South Carolina. That's the way you have to play when you're trying to defend Connecticut.
And when you're going against Gabby Williams, you have to realize she can do things that no other woman in the game can do. No one else gets a fingertip on that pass other than Gabby Williams.
Yeah, Holly was talking about that when we were in shoot-around today. Her level of athleticism is almost unparalleled in this sport right now. 3 early South Carolina turnovers. 2 early ones for Connecticut. Williams with the shot fake, and there is the all-time blocks leader in South Carolina history, Asia Wilson.
Well, I had a ooh on the blow by, and then I had another ooh right here on the block by Asia Wilson. That's a double ooh.
UConn work a lot in shoot-around with their bigs getting the ball right at the elbow area.
UConn's hot from the outside. Katie Lou Samuelson drills a 3. 9 straight points for UConn. Ty Harris is the point guard for South Carolina. Wilson draws a foul.
Sometimes it's just the little things with your body right here. Nafisa Collier with the handoff, but the play's not done. She screens off the defender, and that's all the time Lou needs to be able to hit a shot.
There can be no airspace between you and Katie Lou Samuelson if you are defending her. The second there's space between you and her, that's when some of their actions can trip you up and cause you to be a little bit late. And if you're a little bit late, it's a bucket.
Nobody has taken or made more free throws in South Carolina history than Asia Wilson. He cuts the lead to 8. This time Nurse from the paint. Collier basically had it stripped at the summit by Wilson. Harris. What a pass by Williams in mid-air, essentially. A one-touch for the assist. That was pretty. And that's the type of play that not many players, if any other ones at all in the country, can make, other than Gabby Williams.
Come on, White.
just the athleticism by Gabby Williams. It's the intelligence and the skill. And the ball placement there. Exactly where it needs to be for Nafisa Collier to make a play.
Coach Royam was talking to us this morning about how his other bigs can struggle at times if Gabby's not on the floor because she's the one who gets them the ball. She's the facilitator. Connecticut getting a lot of touches in the paint, whether by blow-bys or dribble penetration, because South Carolina is in such a hard deny D.
Yeah, use that aggressiveness against the Gamecocks. They've done a great job in their early going.
Makia Herbert Harrigan has checked in for South Carolina. Danye Kleine has already picked up 2 fouls. This is a South Carolina team that is only dressing 9 players on scholarship tonight. 5 points now for Asia Wilson. They are without Lindsey Spann, the grad transfer from Penn State, as she recovers from a knee injury. Williams banks it in. Both teams settling in now after an emotional and high-energy start.
Yeah, Connecticut switching into a zone. It took a few seconds for South Carolina to recognize.
Nice step through by Wilson.
Now, that's what I talked about in the open, making the difficult look easy. And that's what Asia Wilson does there.
South Carolina ball. Fun start. It's going to be a fun one tonight in Columbia.
One thing for sure is going to happen Sunday night. 1, 2, 3. Fly, Eagles, fly on the road to victory. Fly, Eagles, fly. Score a touchdown. 1, 2, 3.
Of course, Gino Auriemma and Dawn Staley, both head coaches, are big Philadelphia Eagles fans. And Kia Nurse, we asked, how do you know that song? Well, she said, it's because of my uncle, Donovan McNabb, the longtime Philadelphia Eagle.
Go Patriots.
You know, I think, though, our favorite part of the whole thing was Katie Lou Samuelson in the background. Big thumbs down from Katie. As you can tell, nobody had any fun at shoot-around earlier today. Good offensive start on both sides. 8-point UConn lead. Alexis Jennings, well defended by Collier. Crystal Dangerfield definitely runs the point. We've got 2 really good sophomore point guards helping to run the show for these 2 teams in Dangerfield and Harris. Good defense by Jennings, saved by Wilson. Dangerfield takes the 3. Now Jennings on the floor, and here comes South Carolina.
Nice defensive toughness, that possession by Jennings. Wilson into that area of the floor that Kara and Rebecca were pointing out early tonight.
So here's what Jennings does, is it closes the airspace. You see that? Closes the airspace, and it enables her to get the block.
Well, this I'll ask you, though. What was different between Collier's defense on this end of the floor, where the foul got called, and Jennings' defense on the other end of the floor? It looked very similar to me.
Yeah, I'd like to see the replay of that one. Did we already show it?
As Ray Stevens checks in for Connecticut. You guys have talked about airspace already a couple of times. It's so important with these 2 skills, the level of skill for both of these teams. They're marquee players. There's a much smaller margin for error on defense.
To me, that's the same exact defensive play. That should have been a no call as well.
Dangerfield buries a 3.
And Nafisa Collier in the game a season ago fouled out. You know, it's very important for Connecticut, for her to stay in the basketball game.
Jennings was working against Gabby Williams to try to get position. Dangerfield. All Harris. And Kia Nurse just beat everybody down the floor, but missed the layup.
That's another incredible pass by Gabby Williams.
Man.
Wow.
Can I count her as a post passer?
Yes.
Okay.
Smooth touch for the freshman Bianca Jackson.
I will allow it.
Thank you. The ombudsman has spoken.
I'm writing it down. I am a witness. I'll get that stamped later on today. Thought about it and took it. Gabby Williams. Gino Auriemma said, I challenge anybody in the country to find someone who makes as many big plays at both ends of the floor as Gabby Williams does. High praise.
There she goes.
Yep.
And what did he say about her making that shot? He said if she makes that shot 52% of the time the rest of the season, we don't lose. Talking about the 15-footer.
Harris with the long jumper. Wow, Williams tapped it out. I was just impressed by the leaping ability. That's the athleticism. A foul called underneath by D. Cantor. NBA doubleheader on Friday. If you haven't been keeping up on Twitter, can't wait to see Hassan Whiteside and Joel Embiid because they've got a Twitter beef. Let's see how it plays out on the floor. Warriors lost by 30 the other night to the Jazz. They'll take on the Sacramento Kings, our doubleheader on Friday on ESPN.
I'm still waiting for our women's college basketball music to rival that of our NBA promos.
It's so intense. I love the NBA music.
Rebecca, have you ever been in a Twitter beef? I'll take that as no.
I take my Twitter vegan.
Me too.
I think the question I have for you is, if Twitter were around when you were playing, who would you have had a beef with on Twitter?
Nobody, because I assume, like now, there would be a prohibition from using it during the season.
Trying to find position was Wilson, and they're going to tag Azurá Stevens with her second foul off the bench.
Looking for the lob. Yeah, the hands locked up. But that's a fourth foul, I think, if I'm counting correctly, drawn by A'ja Wilson. She averages about 7 fouls drawn a game.
Because once she catches it, it's over. So you have to do everything you can to prevent her from getting the catch.
Stevens is still out there with those 2 fouls. Victoria Patrick is in for South Carolina off the bench. It is Harris. And an excellent defensive play for Connecticut by Stevens. Azurá Stevens, her 22nd birthday today. Deep downtown, that might have been blocked. Nurse unable to connect at the end of the first quarter. Most points given up by South Carolina in the first quarter this season. 24, 8-point game.
Well, I will be at that game with Bob Schusen and Fran Fraschilla. Trae Young is so fascinating to watch right now. But keep in mind, the last time he faced West Virginia, Javon Carter, who is probably the best player in the country on defense, he got into Trae Young and made things very difficult. So watch that rematch again on Monday. It's going to be fascinating.
Trae Young coming off 44 in the win against Baylor the other night. They'll have Texas coming up this weekend as well. Azurá Stevens on the board for Connecticut. Muscling her way inside, Lily Grissett, freshman for South Carolina.
It's actually a really good job by Harris there defensively in transition, just to stay in front of Dangerfield, not let her turn the corner.
Ariema had such high praise for Crystal Dangerfield on a team full of superstars, All-Americans. He said Crystal Dangerfield is probably our best player right now, and to me that signifies that she might be the most important player for this team.
Well, the point guard's always the most important player, right, Kara?
I will allow that comment as well.
let me write that down. Point guard.
The amount of times he talked about how smart she is on the court was what struck me more than anything.
There's no question that he places high value on intelligence of his players and the ability to read and react and to be able to go off on your own tangent if you need to.
Here is Wilson. Long rebound for Jackson.
The disruption of the way UConn's been able to disrupt South Carolina's rhythm has outweighed South Carolina's offensive execution here early.
Foul against South Carolina. You're going to get Lily Grissett.
And one of the things that's interesting to me, UConn defensively, last year when they played against South Carolina, they chose to play off of Ty Harris. And that's not been the case here today. Look at Katie Lou Samuelson's hand. Whoever is guarding Ty Harris, they're trying to get up in her to disrupt so that they also Ty has a harder time getting the pass into A'ja Wilson, because if you can't figure out how to stop her inside, you try to prevent the pass from going in.
Yeah, that's the first line of defense. Post defense is guarding the pass with pressure.
UConn is 8th in the country in scoring defense, 5th in the country in field goal percentage defense. Victoria Patrick is going to pick up her second foul off the bench. Makia Herbert Harrigan will check back in. Excellent two-player game. That was very smooth from Samuelson and Collier.
Earlier in the game, we saw it result in a three. This time, the defense realized that, hedged out, and it resulted in the roll.
Dangerfield came from the backside and last touched by Wilson.
So A'ja Wilson knows that Katie Lou hit a three behind this action, so she helps up. And as a result, Collier slips right to the basket. Weak side is late. That's an open layup.
Samuelson, that one short.
Oh.
Gabby Williams comes flying in for the offensive rebound. Jennings picks up her first. Williams to the free throw line. Career high 26 points, 14 rebounds, 4 assists, 4 steals. That was the line for Gabby Williams in last year's win over South Carolina, which was the 100th consecutive win during that great run for UConn.
And that was the Gabby Williams show a season ago, and she's had some tough moments. Early in this season. I was talking to her about it this morning, and she said, I was pressing. I just have to remember I have to let the game come to me. And she feels like she's been able to do that a lot more as of late, and was able to do that last year against South Carolina.
That is another great play by Gabby Williams. She got position on Wilson, and while she didn't get the rebound herself, she tapped it to a teammate. The hesitation by Dangerfield. Williams with the offensive rebound. Extra pass for Collier, and a three. 11-0 run to start the quarter.
Just beautiful basketball. Absolutely gorgeous by UConn on that possession.
They have come into one of the great atmospheres in college basketball against one of the hard-nosed teams in the country. And they're up by 19 right now. Wilson with the block, another one. her third. Offensive foul on Asia Wilson. And Dangerfield got back to draw the charge.
Excellent job by Dangerfield to step in there and force Asia Wilson to make a decision. When a big is driving and leading the fast break, you always want them to have to make a decision quickly. And sometimes you force a battle.
And generally what the big wants to do is pass it off. And, you know, not have to get their big old body to a complete stop. And that time there was just no one to pass to.
The turnover story has been very apparent early in this game. Balance for Connecticut. And it feels like it's been Asia Wilson or bust for South Carolina so far. Samuelson.
A little rub screen in the pinch post, and we've seen it also on those inbound plays when it involves Katie Lou Seamus, and because she is such a good shooter with even a little bit of airspace, Kara, it's so difficult to defend.
I mean, where do they go right now? Obviously, Wilson's an important piece. But where do you want to see this offense go to try to get back into this game?
Well, this was coming into this game. The biggest question I had was, how is South Carolina going to score enough? Because you know how good UConn is defensively, and outside of Asia Wilson and Ty Harris at times, who can create their own shot against a great individual defender. And that is the challenge, is outside of those two players, who can make a play?
Jackson knocks down a three. I'm going to call that a long shoot. Beg your pardon. Another rebound for Williams.
To have that athleticism just for a day.
What would you do on that day?
Hang on the rim all day. All day and hang on the rim. That's the easy answer.
Wilson had it stripped by Williams. Williams to Samuelson. It is all UConn here in Columbia so far.
How many timeouts does Dawn have left? I know there's a TV one coming, but it's been a few possessions now where they need to do something to stop the bleeding.
There is the timeout. We'll step aside. UConn looking sharp. Yeah, guys, we'll kind of talk about some of the movement from the first reveal to the second reveal. UConn was the #1 team, no surprise, on the first one. I would imagine that they would stay in that same spot. We'll get a chance to see it with all of you. This is what Charlie Cream has. He's got UConn, Louisville, Notre Dame, and the other unbeaten team in the country, Mississippi State, as the #1 seeds. South Carolina sitting as a #2 seed. Oregon, now with 3 losses on the year, holding on to a #2 seed, according to Charlie. Asia Wilson with points 3 and 4 in the quarter for South Carolina.
So easy to forget that she's 6'5" when she makes moves like that with superior athletic ability.
Samuelson to the other side of the bucket with Wilson defending. She's got 8 in the quarter.
You go against a shot blocker, you have to use the rim as your protector to get the shot off.
Good look for Danye Kleine. Not a great three-point shooter, but knocks down a much-needed one. Foul called against Brissett. Earlier in the game, watch this. That was Gabby Williams hitting the deck. Trying to knock a ball away. See her kind of stretch out, lean over. And then grimacing earlier in this game, Holly.
Well, she has been battling a sore hip for a while now. They're doing extra rehab on that, and she has been fighting through that pain, and it's going to have to continue throughout the rest of the season. But Gino Auriemma said something interesting. He said, in a weird way, it's actually helping her a little bit. Early in the season, she was just going too fast, trying to do too much. So that hip soreness has actually slowed her down, gotten her out of her own way a little bit. So that's a glass house full report right there.
Positivity here. South Carolina shooting over 40% against this Connecticut defense. But the turnovers have been a huge issue in this game. Good position by the smaller Williams for a rebound against Wilson.
Turnovers and second chances for Connecticut.
Yep. Kind of a secondary break action for Nurse to knock down her third three. Largest lead up to 25. Connecticut all-time is 5-0 against South Carolina. The average margin of victory is 27 points. Nurse. 28-point lead for UConn. All smiles for Gino Auriemma. .5% three-point clip this season for Kia Nurse, the best in the nation.
She's lethal from beyond the arc, and UConn's defense is putting them in advantageous positions in transition, where Kia Nurse is getting clean looks at the basket. One of the things we talked to Gino Auriemma about this morning was why she's playing better this season, why she's shooting it better, and he said it's because of the emergence of Crystal Dangerfield. She's not having to man the point guard position, so she has a lot more freedom on the offensive end now.
And, you know, a big storyline at this time last season was what's wrong with Kia Nurse's shot. She'd been going through a disastrous drought. But she said she got in the gym this summer, and actually she would have Coach Auriemma or one of her assistant coaches come, and every shot they would go over mechanics. She has changed those mechanics and now leads the country in three-point shooting. We all knocked on wood and said, hey, keep it up. Don't think too much. Just keep shooting.
Yeah, thinking too much is so important, or not thinking too much is so important when you are a shooter, because you can get in your own way, especially if you're a perfectionist or hard on yourself, a competitor. You get to be where your mind is getting in your way because you want to make shots so badly.
I always thought guards did a better job of not thinking too much.
Really?
You know,
We have a whistle. You guys can hash this out right now.
these smart post players, it's harder to calm your brain down.
I'm about to have my first Twitter beef. It's about to happen at halftime.
We won't discuss things publicly, but we will feature this beef on Twitter.
Guys, what I really meant by that, before you go out of control with this conversation, is that her mechanics and her biomechanics are so solid she doesn't have to think about it because she's put the work in the gym. So calm down over there.
I wonder if the stress reaction had something to do with it last year. Remember, she missed a handful of games. I think it was 4 games last year in February with the right ankle stress reaction. I wonder if that affected exactly what Holly was just talking about.
And including the majority of the game against South Carolina.
Yep.
South Carolina now in a zone trying to prevent Connecticut from getting the dribble penetration into the lane.
Help them pack up the middle of the floor right there for a takeaway. Here's Wilson. Wave out the basket attempt. Foul before the shot. The second on Collier.
Yeah. When Gabby Williams goes for the steal, rare that she goes for it and doesn't get it and takes herself out of the play.
Wilson. Good hustle by Grissett. Well defended by Samuelson. Shot clock is off. Dangerfield. A close to an excellent half for the #1 team in the country. Asia Wilson doing her work. 10 points, 7 rebounds, a few blocks. The rest of the team not pulling the weight for Dawn Staley right now. UConn leads by 29. Over to Holly Rowe.
Well, Coach Rory, Makia Nurse has really come alive. Her perimeter shooting has really paced you in this game. What's turned around for her on that three-point shot?
Well, I think the fact that Crystal has the ball in her hands so much, and same with Lou, it's kind of freed up Kia to do what she's always wanted to do, you know, and she's worked really, really hard on that. We have a lot of confidence in her, and she has a lot of confidence in herself. You know, we wanted to come out today and just, hey, don't pass up any open shots. And so far they haven't.
You guys have done a great job on defense. Making it hard to get the ball into Asia Wilson is what have you done to make that so difficult for her to get touches?
Well, the first 4 or 5 minutes, they were shooting nothing but layups. And, you know, they're a really good team, and she's a really good player. So you can't take everything they do away from them. That's just not possible. So, you know, we're just trying to give up some other things in other areas and protect, you know, the areas that we can, and so far so good.
Thank you, Coach.
Thanks.
Impressive stuff in the first 20. Alfa Romeo halftime report. The reveal is coming up with Maria, Nell, and Andy. Welcome back to the Thursday night showcase. It's the SEC on ESPN, and #1 Connecticut looking very sharp, up 29 at halftime. Adam Amin, Kara Lawson, Rebecca Lobo, Holly Rowe as well. The most points allowed by South Carolina in a half, and the fewest points they scored in a half all year. Impressive stuff from the #1 team.
It sure was. I mean, this is the best I've seen UConn look all season.
Sure.
And you look at how productive they were, how efficient they were. When they play like this, Rebecca, this is when the questions start to come. Who are the teams out there that can beat them when they're running on all cylinders?
And I think it's no coincidence that UConn's playing their best basketball when Gabby Williams is playing her best basketball on both ends of the floor. She's so disruptive defensively. Offensively, she's making the right decisions, facilitating their offense with her passes, and it takes them to the next level when she can do what she did tonight in terms of hitting the 15-footer.
Still a fun atmosphere at Colonial Life Arena. We're expecting close to, if not a full sellout tonight, as #1 Connecticut has come into town. Same 10 that started the game are on the floor to start the second half as we check in with Miss Holly Rowe.
Well, I caught up with South Carolina coach Dawn Staley at the half, and she said they've got to do a better job taking care of the basketball. UConn has scored 16 points off of their turnovers, and then we have got to force the ball into Asia Wilson that we're seeing right now. They said, you know, Connecticut did a good job slagging off of Kleine. She said, we have got to force it into her because they're having her person help on Asia.
Yeah, look at Krista Dangerfield. This is guarding Kleine, and look at her positioning, and look when Kleine goes off to Kaylou Samuelson. They are playing with 5 defenders against 4 offensive players against South Carolina.
Last year they sagged off Harris. This year it's off Kleine.
There's a turnover.
Yep. %51% from the floor for UConn, and as you all were just talking about, that second line is the big one. 16 points off 8 first-half turnovers. So literally every turnover South Carolina had and committed in that first half, UConn scored. And that's an unforced error. Jennings threw it away. Williams gives it right back. freshman out of Montgomery, Alabama. Nice 6. Samuelson, that's such a smooth-looking shot. She's got 16.
And how you spread the defense when you have Katie Lou Samuelson in the right corner, Kia Nurse in the left corner. You cannot help off of them too much or they will make you pay.
Just feels like a case of too many weapons, too much space to cover if you're a defense.
Yeah, that's the ultimate conundrum when you play a UConn is you try to find ways where you can limit open shots, and there's another one.
Wow.
And that was just lack of focus and lack of awareness by South Carolina. That wasn't anything scheme-wise. That was just not knowing where a shooter is.
Timeout, Gamecocks. Everybody knows Trae Young. You're going to see him on Saturday primetime. The site of game day is Austin, Texas. We'll see number 5 Michigan State and Indiana at Assembly Hall afterwards. Earlier today, we got a chance to talk to Gino Auriemma about Trae Young.
He creates offense. He's not necessarily come down, let's run our offense. He has the confidence and the ability to create his own offense, which in turn then makes everybody so worried about him that then he creates offense for the rest of his teammates. And you usually see that like in a junior or a senior or, you know, someone who's been around a long time. And for this kid to come out and do it right out of high school, I just think it's remarkable. And, you know, he's worth the price of admission in college basketball. I could watch him play every single night.
The reason we got into that conversation with Gino Auriemma today was because we were talking about Crystal Dangerfield and kind of who to look at if you're Crystal, a sophomore point guard. Who should you be watching? And she said she likes watching Trae Young. And the line that stuck out to us when we talked with Gino, I want Crystal to be like Trae Young. I don't just want her to run the offense. I want her to create more offense for this team.
Well, she certainly has some Trae Young-like characteristic in the sense that she can get wherever she wants to on the floor. She has very deep range. He wants her to have more of that Trae Young killer instinct.
Dangerfield has not shot the ball well today, but she's played fairly well.
Yeah.
I'll tell you who's playing well is Bianca Jackson.
Yep.
Yeah. You know, this is where you find out about your young players in games like this. And Bianca Jackson has shown that she has the ability to create her own shot against this UConn defense.
Williams, no. And out of bounds to South Carolina. And the lead has been as large as 33 in this game. Let's see if South Carolina has even a little bit of push. Because let's not forget what's coming up for the Gamecocks. They still have number 2 as of now. Number 2 Mississippi State in Starkville on ESPN2 on Monday night. This is a brutal stretch for South Carolina with Missouri, UConn, and Mississippi State.
And Mississippi State has a game tonight against Missouri.
That's right. Almost like a good round robin right now in the SEC.
The SEC race is a fun one.
Tennessee and Texas A&M were coming down the wire over on SEC Network. They were tied late. Tennessee struggling a little bit. Obviously, their schedule had been very difficult over the last couple of weeks. Asia Wilson. A little bit more life here in Colonial Life Arena. Harris, the pull-up. Offensive rebound for Herbert Harrigan.
Let me ask you this question. How many places in the country are you going to find over 15,000, 16,000 people to watch a women's basketball game that are cheering like that?
Right.
And their team's down 24.
Yeah.
I mean, if you close your eyes, you think the game is like a single-digit game.
Dangerfield left it short. And Jackson draws a foul on Gabby Williams. Timeout on the floor.
Well, Dawn Staley of South Carolina grew up playing basketball at the Moylan Recreation Center, now named the Hank Gathers Recreation Center. So when her team played Temple in December, she took a replica of the national championship trophy back. The city councilman surprised her. She did not know this was happening. They renamed a section of Diamond Street from 25th to 2300 blocks after Dawn Staley. She said, this ranks right up there with one of the greatest accomplishments in my life. Nothing I'm more proud of, because she played. She said, I want people to know that grow up in North Philly, little kids there, that anything is possible. You can do anything. And her taking that national championship back, one of her greatest accomplishments in basketball, to a place where it all started, she said, it is my greatest moment.
The resume is just incredible for Dawn Staley. And think about all this. She didn't really have much interest in coaching after her playing career, which was just outstanding. And she was a 2,000-point scorer in Virginia, went to a few Final Fours, went to a national championship game, great defensive player, the 3 Olympic gold medals, a teammate of yours, Rebecca, for those runs, 6-time WNBA All-Star, and didn't really want to coach. And the Temple athletic director convinced her that she could have a career in coaching, took over the Temple program, took them to 6 NCAAs in 8 years, took over at South Carolina, where they had one 30-win season in their entire program history, and now they've had 3 straight 30-win seasons, and they won their first national title last year.
And there's certain teammates that you play with and you know that they have got the coaching gene, that they are going to be good ones, and without question, Dawn Staley was one of those.
What did you see in Dawn as a teammate that made you think that?
Very vocal, was a leader, very smart when it came to getting people in their places, and ridiculously competitive.
12 in a row for South Carolina. Man, when you need a silencer, Katie Lou Samuelson is there. UConn had missed 7 straight shots during that South Carolina run. Good defense by Collier. Stevens with the feed and a foul call.
So many ways that UConn can attack you from so many different angles, entry points, and that's what makes it really difficult to prepare for them, because they're not going to do the same thing over and over.
Reminder that ESPN's award-winning 30 for 30 film series continues, presented by Blue Moon. The 2 Bills, featuring Bill Parcells and Bill Belichick, being interviewed together for the first time since the early 90s. Talk about their special relationship that spanned 4 decades. That's tonight when we're done on ESPN and the ESPN app. Dangerfield to steal. Ooh, every part of the iron. Here's Wilson. Got her on miss and drew a foul. Now, Holly was talking about this earlier. Gabby Williams getting work done.
Well, as you can see, they're doing some adjustment work with Gabby Williams on the sideline. That looks like a definite problem with her hip. and just getting that realigned. That's something to keep our eye on moving forward. She plays with such great athleticism. She is moving so strong on those hips throughout the game that as we move forward in this season, I would be very concerned with how that's playing out with Gabby Williams. She's a very tough kid, but something to keep our eye on throughout the rest of this season.
This is just her second year as a full-time starter. What a great piece on Gabby Williams. And Rebecca, I asked you about Jen Rosati earlier because that's the type of player that Gabby Williams wants to emulate. That was your point guard for UConn's first national championship in 1995.
Type of player whose toughness can supersede even the stats that she puts up and the numbers that she puts up. And we've seen numbers-wise what Gabby can do, but also just the intangibles of her effort, athleticism, and her ability to disrupt things defensively.
Jen won the Wade Trophy in the 90s without really being a big-time scorer. She averaged 11 points per game and won the Wade Trophy. Obviously did a lot of other things defensively, was a very good point guard, obviously, but that's what Gabby Williams wants to emulate. Somebody who may not fill up the stat sheet every single night, but will do a lot of things to help the team win. That's a good list, too, to be a part of.
Let's look at this one. Oh, I don't mean to cross her out. I'm trying to underline. I'm trying to underline. Oh, sorry, Jen. Sorry, Jen.
Oh, my goodness. Blaming it on the telestrator.
It's a bad carpenter who blames the tools.
That's right. That's right.
That was such an old adage, and I think that hurt your feelings more than anything I've ever said to you in our
who are you calling a tool?
Here is Gabby Williams with the feed to Nurse. 19 now for Kia Nurse. Transition, that's been a problem just about every time these two teams have met. Whether it's turnovers, whether it's runouts off misses, that's been something of a staple for UConn in these meetings against Dawn Staley in South Carolina. See it right there in the the last four meetings, 46-8 the advantage in fast break points for UConn.
And that's because the genesis of fast break points come off of turnovers or stops on the defensive end of the floor. And UConn has been able to get forced turnovers and get the lion's share of the stops in these games.
Nurse. You know, Kara, to your point, so many possible entry points, so many angles. It almost feels like there's 3 point guards on the floor for UConn. Everybody's pointing out something for a teammate or something to call for. Everybody can run this offense, it feels like sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I think that speaks to the intelligence of the UConn players, and it also speaks to how Gino Auriemma develops that intelligence, that basketball intelligence. You know, if you ask me, what is the one thing that he does better than any other coach in the country? And there are a lot of things he does better, but the one thing I think he does better is develop basketball thinkers on the court. Think, move, read, react. When you have that, you become unguardable as a team because you're always playing off of what the defense isn't doing as opposed to just running the play.
And if you're not a good passer, he's not going to recruit you. Because that's one thing. You can teach someone to become a better passer, but if someone doesn't know how to pass, that's not a skill that you can transition from high school to college and all of a sudden have.
Out of bounds on Samuelson, who's pleading her case to Sue Blau. Gino Auriemma was on the floor as well asking about this. That's an Asia Wilson touch. That probably should have, actually it should have been UConn basketball.
This lineup, look how long and big this zone is for UConn.
Yeah.
Stevens in there, Katie Lou up top.
How about the outlet by Samuelson for Nurse? South Carolina had that great spurt early in this third quarter, and UConn has stemmed the tide to close the quarter. Push off and an attack. Asia Wilson with her third foul. A lot of frustration for Dawn Staley. So good at home as South Carolina. But UConn is the team that's been dominant on the road. Kleine will close the third. Balance for the Connecticut Huskies. Very apparent. A pair of 20-point scores tonight and a 28-point lead. So this was revealed at halftime. This is the second top 16 reveal by the women's basketball selection committee. Big movement, obviously, Tennessee after their difficult stretch. They dropped from 5 to 11. A couple of teams dropped out as well. A couple of teams move in. You see Michigan at number 15. Charlie Cream talked about Georgia, maybe a bit of a shocker being behind Tennessee as it stands right now as Georgia plays well. Let me ask you guys this. Of these teams that we're looking at, whom is the biggest threat to the #1 team, Connecticut, right now?
Well, when you look outside of the top 4, I'm going to say Baylor. I mean, they impressed the heck out of me last week, seeing them in person, and especially if Christy Wallace continues to be on the tear that she's been on the last few games to complement their bigs inside. Watch out for Baylor.
Yeah, I also thought a couple of their freshmen off the bench acquitted themselves very well in that game against Texas. And, you know, with freshmen, you look to see maybe they can continue to grow and be able to not just play themselves into the rotation, but maybe play themselves into some big moments in March.
And obviously, as you guys pointed out very accurately last week, Baylor's just now getting into the very difficult part of Big 12 play, because they're going to see Texas on February 19th. That will be in Austin. West Virginia, Oklahoma State, they just have that stretch.
Yep.
TCU was in the top 25 last week. So still a lot of challenges for Kim Mulkey's team, but their first real tough challenge that we saw last week, they stepped up impressively.
Yeah, I was trying to think earlier today if there's a player you have to game plan more for than Kalani Brown, it's Baylor. Her size and her ability on the block and how physical she is.
Possession arrow stays with South Carolina.
Did you come up with one?
Well, I thought about Asia Wilson and what you'd have to do. Certainly, Asia Durr, even though it's a guard, it's a different, different type of game plan. Gabby Williams, because I think you have to game plan for her when you're on the offensive end as well.
Try to get her away on defense.
There's a lot of good options. I'm not ready to reveal my final decision yet.
What makes Brown so difficult is her sheer size, and the other teams simply don't have that.
Yeah.
6'7".
Well, one of the things I would like to point your eyes to is Asia Wilson. She had almost all the starters from last year's national championship team graduated or went early to the WNBA draft. She's out here doing this with a lot of young players surrounding her, and the way she's elevated her game, I mean, I know it's early, but I just think she is beautiful out there right now. She's overwhelmed right now by Connecticut, but what this player has been able to do to elevate her game this year, I'm just so impressed with Asia Wilson. Offensively, defensively, just giving it all right now.
Holly, to your point, Elena Coates, #2 pick, goes to Chicago. Alicia Gray, who's in-house tonight, #4 pick to Dallas. Kayla Davis, #10 pick to Dallas. 3 of the top 10 WNBA draft picks in last season's draft were all from that national championship team.
Alicia Gray was the Rookie of the Year in the WNBA.
Yep.
It's a lot of talent. Asia Wilson, the clear projection for the #1 pick in this coming WNBA draft.
There was a poll done of a lot of coaches and general managers anonymously by the Associated Press. It was a consensus #1 for Asia Wilson. traveling violation against UConn.
Well, you see that Rookie of the Year. There's two pretty famous players for South Carolina. Tiffany Mitchell on your left, Alicia Gray on your right. And this is really cool. We haven't seen many people leave early for the WNBA draft, but Alicia did. She went to the Dallas Wings, had a great year, but she is back here completing her degree. She will get her degree in May, and I just love that she went early, but she came back and got that piece of paper. Very neat.
That's awesome.
Kayla Davis doing the same thing, coming back to get her degree.
Set picks up the foul. Kia Nurse is a projected first-round pick as well in the WNBA draft. Senior playing in game number 131 in a UConn uniform.
Gabby Williams is the interesting one to me because she would be considered completely undersized as a 5'11" 4. But you see her athletic ability, and even being undersized, her effectiveness at the college level. And, you know, if she can find the right fit in the WNBA, watch out.
Fit's really important for Gabby.
Yes.
And, you know, depending on what team she goes to, if you can pair her with another forward that might have certain strengths on the offensive end, and maybe she guards a certain player when she's on defense, and then offensively can play that 4 spot where that lack of perimeter shooting doesn't hurt you as much than when it's at the 3 spot.
And they're winners too. I mean, they come from winning programs, obviously. 2 losses in an entire career thus far.
I mean, imagine if Gabby Williams dropped to a Minnesota Lynx spot. I mean, how well she could fit in there.
Yep.
You're trying to give
Sylvia Files,
you're trying to give Minnesota more talent.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying, in terms of fit, watch out. Yeah.
Well, what did Sue Bird call her? Called her a tweener, right? Said that at that level she would essentially be a tweener, so you'd have to find the spot. But to your point, she could probably fit a lot of spots.
Yeah. Yeah.
Long distance from Nafisa Collier there. Lobo, you're not kidding about the length of this zone.
Oh, especially, with Dangerfield out.
And they do such a great job of keeping their arms off. Too often, you know, in the zone, players will put their arms down, and when it's up like that, the space that they eat.
Back to back, good plays by Nafisa Collier. Well, when we're done here in Columbia, we'll have 30 for 30, the 2 Bills, and then John Butchergross and Zubin Mehenti will take over from SportsCenter. Blake Griffin, the big blockbuster trade this week, going from the Clippers to the Pistons, his first game with Detroit tonight. We'll break that down. The sights and sounds of Bill Belichick's outstanding career, and my history says we should expect a close Super Bowl on Sunday. Bucci and Z will have SportsCenter after 30 for 30 tonight on ESPN. You guys got a pick for me on Sunday?
Patriots.
You going Patriots?
Yes.
Lobo?
I live in New England.
You don't want to upset anybody.
No.
I don't know.
Except all the Giants fans that live in New England. I just upset them.
I was gonna say. I don't know if Gino or Don are gonna be watching 30 for 30. They're rooting for the Eagles, so I don't know how much Belichick they're gonna watch. Nurse wrapped up with Jennings with a jump ball.
See, I'm from Washington, D.C., so it is in the fan contract to not cheer for any NFC East team.
You are not allowed to cheer for any teams in the division.
No, not allowed at all.
And Gino gave us plenty of insight about his fandom with the Philadelphia Eagles. Loves the parity in the NFC East.
Do you eat avocado ice cream like Tom Brady, Karen?
I've had it before, yes. I didn't write a book about it, but...
I mean, are you allowed to eat a tomato once in a while? Because he doesn't eat tomatoes.
I actually don't like tomatoes.
Okay, so it's strictly a palate issue.
Yeah. Yeah, palate and texture. Just not a fan of the tomato.
Well, let's give some love to Bianca Jackson. You guys talked about her earlier. had a great third quarter, continues to play for this team. Freshman out of Montgomery, the daughter of 2 current college basketball coaches at Alabama State. What a strip by Nurse. Out of bounds to South Carolina. 31-point lead for UConn. Final 5 from Columbia when you come back. Philly's own Dawn Staley. Proud of her hometown. And of course, cheering on her Eagles. This is a tweet a couple of days ago. And of course, had to dress up Champ, the new puppy that's been around for the last few months around this South Carolina program.
And Dawn's viewing is a little bit difficult because they play Mississippi State in Starkville the next day on Monday. So she said she will be in a hotel down in Starkville trying to watch that game. She said she will not watch it with her players. She does not want people talking. She's a very serious sports fan, basketball and football fan.
I don't know if I trust people who put clothes on their dogs.
Oh, okay. I legitimately was going to ask, where do you stand on the dressing of the dog?
I will allow it.
Not marking that
The
down.
ombudsman has spoken.
Hey, we had a little Motown Philly.
Oh, yeah, that's us playing in between.
Yeah,
that was great.
Good, yeah.
Anytime Boys to Men wants to enter our lives, we're okay with that. Brissett, offensive rebound. Another freshman.
She's played with some good energy as well.
Yep.
You know, I would say Jackson and Brissett are the 2 freshmen that I've been the most impressed with in this game.
And Jackson has a career high, working tonight with 17. Megan Walker. And a jump ball. You know, Holly was talking about the next matchup for South Carolina. How about this matchup that we're going to see down in the post? The 2 leaders in SEC play in double-doubles. You're going to get to watch this outstanding matchup. Tierra McCowan, excellent efficiency against Asia Wilson. That's on ESPN2 Monday night.
Well, I'll tell you what South Carolina better shore up before they play Mississippi State. That's the turnovers. Because the type of defense they saw tonight and the way UConn's pressure affected them and disrupted their rhythm from the first quarter on. That's the type of defense they're going to see with Vic Schaefer and the Mississippi State Bulldogs.
The doubles, the blitzes, the pressures on the ball out high. That is not a team that is shy about trying to apply the pressure. By the way, Mississippi State playing right now against Missouri on SEC Network if you guys want to check that game out.
And especially the ability to apply that pressure when you have a 6'7" shot blocker on your back line.
You know, one thing to keep our eye on moving forward for Connecticut is Crystal Dangerfield, their point guard, has been on the bench much of this fourth quarter. Now they've got a huge lead, and so they're able to rest her, but she's having some issues with shin splints. You see a sleeve on her left leg. She has not been practicing as much as normal. She's trying to get healthy and heal as they go, but that is something to watch moving forward for opponents and for UConn, is how healthy Crystal Dangerfield is. They're very different when she's in the ballgame. You know,
Holly, there's only 2 UConn players that average 30 or more minutes a game. Dangerfield's one of them. That's the sophomore point guard that carries a lot of weight in a lot of different areas for this team. Back the other way to South Carolina. Trae Young coming off 44 in that 2-point win against Baylor, matched up with the Big 12 Player of the Week, Mo Bamba, with that great size and length. That's Saturday primetime. And then we'll have Michigan State going on the road to Assembly Hall. Top 5 team taking on Indiana. That's our doubleheader Saturday night. And the rest of the basketball world has taken note of Trae Young, who is one of the top scorers and one of the top assist men in the country. You heard Gino Auriemma talk about Trae Young earlier in our broadcast, and the nugget that we gave to Gino is Bianca Jackson knocks down another 3. In that Baylor game, his teammates were 9 of 11 from the floor on passes directly from Trae Young. So what does that to you two mean as you're watching a young player develop in basketball at this collegiate level?
It starts with his skill and the attention that he draws. And so when he's passing the basketball, a lot of times his teammates are getting layups or dunks or open three-point shots. And that's because all of these defenses are designed to make him inefficient, to force the basketball out of his hands. And he's so skilled, he's able to overcome that and still have a high level of production.
Seen some of the bench empty out for UConn. Kyla Irwin is into the game. Good take by Grissett. Well, for a majority of this game, as Coombs misses the three, this was about a 6-player rotation, maybe 7 if you want to throw in Megan Walker, who's been playing better as of late, but we're seeing that same tight rotation in these bigger games for UConn, and it's been efficient and effective.
You have these 6 players. Why wouldn't you ride with them? I mean, with how good they are.
Offensive foul. Good job by Irwin to step in and draw the charge.
You know, I mean, not having a deep team is a problem if you have players that get tired, they're not fit. If you have players that are undisciplined and they foul. If you don't have those things, having a short bench is not a problem. Or injury.
Yeah, you gotta stay healthy.
You gotta stay healthy.
And in this day and age with men's practice players, it's not like you know, short bench means there's issues in practice either, because you're still every day going against elite level talent.
I remember Holly gave us that great report during our Notre Dame-Tennessee game where Notre Dame was dealing with a lot of injury during the break between semesters. So they didn't have their practice players to work against them during those practices when they had a couple of rocky games. The Louisville game obviously sticks out during that stretch. The freshness is going to be very important. Something to track as we have now hit the month of February. Louisville, the number 4 team in the country in the last AP poll release. Next time I get to see my 3 All-Star teammates, we will be in Stores, Connecticut for a likely top 5 matchup, Louisville and UConn. The only Louisville loss to Florida State at home in what was a defensive slugfest, a 1-point win for FSU.
Game where Asia Durr really struggled on the offensive end, but we've seen her put together some remarkable performances, and Louisville will need a lot from her in that matchup against UConn.
Louisville dominating Virginia tonight on the road. UConn has been so impressive against just about all comers, 61-11 against top 10 teams over nearly the last decade. The record streak continues. It'll be 48 consecutive road wins for the UConn Huskies. They impressed tonight. The 2 friends, Gino Auriemma and Dawn Staley, meet for the 4th consecutive season, and it's a 4th consecutive win in that stretch for UConn over South Carolina. Now 6-0 all time against the Gamecocks. The last time UConn faced a defending national champion was 5 years ago. They lost to Baylor. Tonight, they were very impressive. Gabby Williams, one of the headliners. She's with Holly Rowe.
Well, Gabby, in this matchup with South Carolina, you're always called upon to guard a much bigger player in Asia Wilson. How were you able to establish your defensive dominance early in this game?
I mean, it started with controlling the boards, keeping her out of the lane, you know, trying to be physical and keep her out of the spots that she likes.
I think that overall as a team, my naked eye tells me your defense is better. Katie Lou's defending, Nafisa's defending, everybody is defending. How did the points off turnovers really feed your group?
I mean, that's kind of our identity is, you know, getting stuff in transition, but we can't get into transition if we don't get defensive stops. So I think our team's starting to realize that, and we're emphasizing on it.
You guys come into a very difficult building to play in with a big statement win over a good team. What do you build on from here?
Yeah, I mean, it's not easy to play in this crowd. But, I mean, you know, you get to silence them, and that's the best part. And I think that we were able to handle ourselves, and we showed some maturity tonight.
I just want to check on your hip. We saw you getting stretched out over there. What's the status of your injury?
You know, my hip's my hip. I'll leave it at that.
My hip's my hip. I think it's a new song, a new hip-hop, literally new hip-hop song. I love it. All right, back to you guys. Our hip's our hip.
A hip is a hip. Let's remember that, my friend. Great work, Collie. An impressive showing once again by the #1 team. 83-58. UConn moves to 21-0 on the season. Gino Auriemma is going to talk to Scott Van Pelt on SportsCenter later on tonight. Make sure you catch that interview. For Kara, Rebecca, and Holly, Adam, sending it back to Marie and the crew.